Rand Paul is a libertarian, so he obviously cares, and he'll probably jump in with his Superman cape to sponsor a bill to do this and save all of us, because as we all know, those damn cigarette taxes are a killer.
Right.
Did you see that whole thing, by the way?
Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. I think we touched on it. Did we touch on this yesterday in the show? This is the interesting thing, is that the talk from the libertarians of the militarization of the police, I think is good. I think it also sort of misses the point. All this stuff was around before police became so heavily militarized. It certainly has changed the dynamic in terms of protesting, and it's certainly an important issue. But this general dynamic of the criminalization of black people has been around for a long time, and the idea that it is a function of taxes on cigarettes and the sort of the unintended consequences of taxes on cigarettes.
There's so many things going
black
on
guys
here.
get strangled to death for doing nothing is just.
What a classic libertarian response, which is, the response immediately goes to taxes. Sure, they care about other issues, but that's really always what it's about, libertarianism. It's always just, don't take my taxes. So it's so funny that he would take it there immediately. I mean, he's such a tone deaf. I mean,
well, that's the thing.
He's really not a very smart guy. I mean, he's running around the country, talking about, sentencing reform and showing up at NAACP meetings and doing all this stuff to show that he cares, and talking about reforming, voting so that to make it easier for African Americans and other stuff. It's a whole lot of talk, and we're glad to hear you talking about it. Wonderful. But when it comes right down to an actual incident and something happening, right, this is the response we get. And the response is, clearly there's many problems that are going into this, but still, the police, to me, again, to come back to an issue, we're talking about the availability of firearms has a lot to do with, I think, a lot of policemen are quicker on the trigger because you don't know what the hell somebody else has. I think there was one, study I looked at, I think it was from 2011, that showed in England there were 0 cop shootings. In Japan there were 0 cop shootings. In Germany there were 8, and there were something like 490 something here. I mean, so this is a serious problem when they feel like they have to compete with the guys on the street, because who knows what kind of firepower they're going to have. Then there's the issue of the militarization of our police forces, of course, and that they're getting, when a guy has basically a tank and is driving around, he's going to use it. So there's that issue too, but some defense contractors make money off of this, and we know what we're up against. So I'm not saying these other factors aren't present, and they're very important, but again, it's still in almost all cases young black males who are getting shot. So
right. I mean, this is the whether it's they're shooting or it's it's water hoses, it's water cannons, like you say. I mean, this is, at the end of the day, this is about racism. Now, with that said, we do get a lot of phone calls from black people, promoting a Milton Friedman video on the tobacco tax, but.
I'm sure you're getting those calls as of right now.
But here's what's amazing about that sort of the Rand Paul thing, is that this is one of those perfect cases, I mean, which illustrates sort of just pure BS. It's like they're sitting around the whatever office it is at Rand Paul Central, and they're saying, hey, you're going to go on TV and someone's going to ask you about this. And you have to understand that, your dad's empire was, if not built upon, but certainly shored up by
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Well, no, let's be honest, racism, and that's not your brand, Rand, but there's no reason to go out there, Rand, if you want to do well and alienate the racists.
You're different, Rand. You fired the Southern Avenger.
Right, exactly. You fired him when it came out. And so
exactly. Your form of neo-Confederacy is much more quiet.
Right, but you need to say something, and you need to go on offense. And so you could say the tax stuff, and there's not a single human being other than the most sort of fringe or, sort of deluded libertarian with all due respect, 19-year-old, I was 19 at one point. I wasn't that deluded, but I was deluded in other ways. Sitting, God knows where, playing D&D. I was playing D&D too. So I don't know what it is. Who's going to buy this unintended consequences of the tobacco tax leading to people being strangled?
No,
but just
I mean,
say it anyway.
Think that he would have been smart enough to go back to one of his old sort of standbys and try to avoid the racism. If he wants to avoid talking about black and white, he should have talked about the militarization of police forces. It fits with what he believes in. I mean, I'm being cynical here, but at least he could have said that. And as I said, neither that nor the availability of guns, and there's other factors here too, play the role that racism does. Clearly,
yeah, but how do you answer?
They do play a role, and he could have said that. But to say a frickin' tobacco tax, I mean, are you kidding me? It doesn't. It's laughable, as so many things this guy says are.
Of course, it's laughable. But this is just his way of.
He may have been trying on a particularly uncomfortable rug that day, and so he couldn't think straight.
Well, and he would also
the dead raccoon he had on his head that day. Maybe they hadn't checked first to make sure it fully had been put down.
No, I think it's just a way of like, look, we're gonna punt on this one, but we can never say that we're gonna punt. Just do the tax thing, and then they'll go to somebody else. I mean, that's.
Well, I think that just makes it worse. I think in the end he should have punted. Or he should have talked about something that at least had the slightest bit of credibility.
Well, what are you going to say about militarization of police when it comes to Garner? It's just like, well, the lifting weights there's too much lifting weight.
Too much weightlifting there
because of government
you're right. I mean,
intrusion.
It's tougher to make it, but you could say
government nutritional standards. Making who knows? I mean,
you could say the militarization has created a much more gung ho culture. I don't know. You could say something.